The foot, 26 bones, 33 joints, 107 ligaments, 19 muscles and 38 tendons. And that's 52 bones between both feet, which make up about 25% of the bones in the human body. So the foot is pretty complex and a pretty amazing thing. And this video is basically about how should we land when we're running. This for me is confused and been something which I've really struggled with since I started my transition to barefoot running after reading Christopher McDougall's best-selling book, Born to Run. And I started off heel striking. I've not read anything which suggests this is the best or a good way to land, but it seems cushioned shoes have led to us landing on our heels. That's basically been my experience anyway. The Forefoot Landing. The Born to Run book by Christopher McDougall talks about the forefoot landing as being the best and preferred method of landing versus a heel landing or heel strike. And this was the first method that I tried after reading his book and buying myself a pair of barefoot-style or minimalist shoes. So you can hear more about the difference between barefoot and minimalist shoes in my video, which I'll put a link to. And also the pose method, which I've discovered recently, also talks about a forefoot strike or forefoot landing being the preferred method, and that was developed by Dr. Romanov. A midfoot strike or midfoot landing, also known as flatfoot or tripod, and I'll get to the unicorn thing in a moment. My understanding of the midfoot landing is not this flatfoot or tripod landing. I only discovered that within the last year or so when I read Shane Benzie's book, The Lost Art of Running. And he also coaches a coaching method called Running Reborn. And he basically says the tripod landing, which is essentially landing with a flat foot. And the tripod comes from the heel and then 2 points at the forefoot, making a tripod. And obviously you've got the arch of your foot in between, which is meant to spread the load evenly when you land. But my understanding of a midfoot landing after reading Christopher McDougall's book, Born to Run, was not a flat landing, but something between a flat landing and a forefoot landing. So a bit more nuanced, where the foot wasn't right up on the toes, but yet the heel still didn't touch down. So it's from somewhere in the middle. And that's the target that I actually ended up moving to after discovering that trying to land with a forefoot landing was basically destroying my calves, because my heel level actually never touched the ground and my Achilles tendon was also under tension. And the first time I tried it, I had to stop running halfway through because my calves felt like they're about to explode. I had to hobble home walking, or at least trying to walk anyway, and ended up having to rest my calves and not run for a few days. So then I decided to, obviously I was over-exaggerating landing too far forward. So then I started to work on trying to land with more of a midfoot, not quite tripod, but more in that kind of direction. So that is something that I've been working on until I discovered Shane Benzie's book and read that. And also Tony Riddle, who is the Natural Life Stylist and has a coaching group called Nat Life Tribe. And I joined that recently. And he also is a proponent of the tripod landing. Although interestingly enough, Tony Riddle based his coaching method and running style barefoot. He ran the length of Great Britain from Land's End to John O'Groats, his bare feet. But yeah, he basically coaches a variation of the pose method, but the big difference being instead of a forefoot landing, you should land with a tripod or flat foot. And the unicorn bit, Dr. Romanov of the pose method, he basically says that from his video analysis that it is very rare to actually land with a full flat foot. And so he actually calls it a unicorn landing. That's interesting, and I'll come back to that shortly, just based on my experiences. And I've actually been working on trying to land with a tripod landing. I'll play it back in more slow motion to show you how I'm landing. And yeah, we'll discuss this midfoot landing and unicorn landing in a little bit. So who is right? Is it midfoot or a forefoot landing? I will certainly agree with you if you are confused at this point. And I've been struggling with this for a little while, actually how to put this video together, and been putting it off for some time. I can understand your confusion. These are obviously a lot of experts out there. I'm not saying Christopher McDougall is an expert, he's a journalist, but Dr. Romanov of the pose method, Shane Benzie and Tony Riddle coached people at the highest level, and so they definitely know what they're about. So the fact that they have different views on how you should land, who's actually right and what's the correct method here. So my thoughts based on my 7 years of discovery, let me make it very clear I'm definitely not an expert, are as follows. I tried the forefoot landing. My calves can't handle it. I definitely find I need my heel to touch down. Even though my heel may not touch down immediately, it does touch down. If you play it back in full speed, it does look like I've got a tripod landing, but after playing it back frame by frame, you can clearly see that my foot does go from my forefoot touching down, and then soon afterwards my heel touches and the foot loads up. As my weight moves through, my foot is definitely in that midfoot point for a lot of the phase where I'm in contact with the ground. Yes, I'm aiming for this tripod landing, and sometimes I will hit it, but often my forefoot does touch down initially, but by the time my foot loads up, my heel will have already touched down, and so it allows my calf to stretch out and unload and stretch out my Achilles as well. I'm not going to say the method that you should choose yourself, but this is just my thoughts and based on my experience, and obviously I'm continuing to learn and discover as I read more and by watching my videos back, especially in slow motion. And often what I'm doing doesn't necessarily match up with what I think I'm doing or what I feel I'm doing. So that's that kind of perception, or sometimes that doesn't match up. So actually to be able to record yourself or get someone else to record you is definitely massively beneficial. See that I've got it set on a fence post here. So that's definitely something you can do yourself. Even if you don't have a GoPro, you can just use your smartphone, a little tripod, or get a friend. There's definitely things you can do just to capture some 10-20 seconds of you running. So yeah, that's I think this video in a nutshell. Thanks for watching and taking the time, and I will see you in the next one.